Welcome to Wealth Wing, where we reveal the financial truths that mainstream media won't tell you. I'm your host, and today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most romanticized paths to wealth, startups. You've seen the headlines. College dropout becomes billionaire. Startup sells for $1 billion in 18 months. But what you don't see are the 90% of startups that fail. The founders eating ramen for years, or the mental toll of risking everything on an idea. Today, we're going to have an honest conversation about startups, the good, the bad, and the financially brutal. By the end of this episode, you'll understand the real economics of startup life, why most fail, and most importantly, how to approach entrepreneurship with your eyes wide open. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into the unfiltered truth about startups.
Let's start with the elephant in the room, the startup success rate. When you scroll through LinkedIn or watch Silicon Valley TV shows, you think every other startup becomes a unicorn. Here's the reality check you need. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and various venture capital reports, about 90% of startups fail. Let that sink in. 9 out of 10. And of the 10% that survive, only about 1% become the billion-dollar unicorns you read about. But here is what they don't tell you. Even among that successful 10%, most founders don't get rich. Why? Because by the time you've raised multiple rounds of funding, your ownership gets diluted down to sometimes single digits. I've personally spoken with founders who sold their companies for $50 million and walked away with less than $2 million after investors, employees, and taxes took their cuts. Let me give you a real example. A founder I know started with 100% equity. After the seed round, he was down to 70%. Series A, 45%. Series B, 28%. By the time the company sold for $80 million, his 28% was worth $22.4 million on paper. But wait, there were liquidation preferences, meaning investors got paid first. After that, legal fees and taxes, he netted about $8 million. Not bad, but this was after 7 years of 80-hour weeks. That's about $24,000 per month, less than many corporate executives make. The media loves the overnight success stories because they sell, but they're selling you a lottery ticket, not a wealth-building strategy. The truth is, startups are one of the riskiest ways to build wealth, and the odds are stacked against you from day one.
Now let's talk about money, the real money behind starting a startup. Everyone focuses on raising capital, but nobody talks about the personal financial hemorrhaging that happens before you ever see a dime from investors. First, there's the opportunity cost. The average startup founder is talented enough to command a six-figure salary in the corporate world. Let's be conservative and say $120,000 per year. If you're bootstrapping for 2 years before raising money, that's $240,000 in foregone income. But it's actually worse than that because you're also missing out on 401k matches, health insurance, and other benefits. Add another $30,000 per year. Then there are the actual out-of-pocket costs. Legal fees to incorporate, $2,000 to $5,000. Trademark filing, $1,500. Basic website and tools, $500 per month. Accounting software, CRM, project management tools, another $300 monthly. Travel to meet potential customers or investors, budget at least $1,000 per month. And here's the kicker. Most founders put their own money in at the beginning. The average founder invests $30,000 to $50,000 of personal savings before raising external capital. Some remortgage their homes or max out credit cards. I interviewed a founder last month who calculated his total personal investment, including opportunity cost, at $380,000 over 3 years before his startup became profitable. That's the price of a house in many markets. And remember, 90% of the time, you're not getting that money back. The stress on personal relationships is real too. Financial pressure is the #1 cause of divorce, and startup financial pressure is like regular financial pressure on steroids. Your spouse watching you burn through savings while working 80-hour weeks for no pay? That tests even the strongest relationships.
Let's demystify the venture capital game, because this is where most founders get played. VCs are not your friends. They're fund managers with their own investors to answer to, and their business model depends on home runs, not singles. Here's how the VC math works. A typical fund invests in 20 to 30 companies, expecting that 1 to 2 will return 10 to 50x, 3 to 4 will return 2 to 5x, and the rest will fail. They need those massive returns because of their 2 and 20 fee structure, 2% annual management fee, and 20% of profits. This creates a fundamental misalignment. You might be happy building a profitable $10 million company that provides a great lifestyle, but if a VC invested $2 million for 20% at a $10 million valuation, a $10 million exit gets them their money back. That's a failure in their books. They need you to shoot for $100 million or die trying. The terms are where founders really get screwed. Liquidation preferences mean VCs get paid first. If they invested $5 million with a 2x liquidation preference and you sell for $10 million, they take their entire $10 million and you get nothing. Anti-dilution provisions can retroactively increase their ownership if you raise money at a lower valuation later. And don't get me started on board control. Once you take VC money, you're no longer the final decision maker. I've seen founders fired from their own companies. One founder I know was removed as CEO of the company he spent 5 years building because the board thought someone else could grow it faster. The dirty secret is that most successful entrepreneurs didn't get rich from VC-backed startups. They built profitable businesses with customer revenue, maintained majority ownership, and either kept running them for cash flow or sold them on their own terms.
Here's a truth the startup world desperately tries to hide. Entrepreneurship has a mental health crisis. A study by UC Berkeley found that 72% of entrepreneurs suffer from mental health conditions compared to 48% of non-entrepreneurs. The isolation is real. When you're a founder, you can't be fully honest with anyone. Can't tell your employees you're not sure you can make payroll. They'll panic and leave. Can't tell investors you're having doubts. They'll lose confidence. Can't tell your spouse how scared you are. They're already worried enough. I remember talking to a founder who described it perfectly. I'm the captain of a ship that's taking on water, and I have to stand on deck smiling and telling everyone we're doing great while secretly bailing water all night. The financial pressure compounds everything. When you're personally guaranteeing office leases, when you've invested your life savings, when you're responsible for your employees' livelihoods, that weight is crushing. Anxiety disorders, depression, and substance abuse are rampant in the startup community. And here's the tragic irony: the traits that make someone start a company, risk-taking, obsessiveness, never being satisfied, are the same traits associated with bipolar disorder, depression, and anxiety. The very thing that drives you to be an entrepreneur might be the thing that breaks you. The financial implications of mental health breakdown are severe. I've seen founders make terrible decisions under stress, taking predatory funding terms because they're desperate, burning bridges with key customers because they're on edge, or simply burning out and walking away from salvageable businesses. If you're going to play the startup game, you need to budget for therapy the same way you budget for software. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And you need to have hard limits on what you're willing to sacrifice. Your mental health is worth more than any exit.
Now, after all this doom and gloom, you might think I'm completely against startups. I'm not, but I am against going in blind. There are scenarios where startups make financial sense, but they're more specific than the media suggests. First, if you have deep domain expertise and see a genuine gap in the market. I'm not talking about Uber for pet grooming ideas. I mean, you've worked in an industry for years, you know exactly what's broken, and you have relationships with potential customers. Your inside knowledge and network reduce the risk significantly. Second, if you can bootstrap with customer revenue from day one. The best startups are often unsexy B2B businesses solving real problems for customers willing to pay. A friend started a compliance software company, charged $2,000 per month from day one, and built it to $5 million in revenue without taking a dime of outside investment. He owns 100% and takes home $1.5 million per year. Third, if you have a financial cushion and a clear exit timeline. The founders who do well treat startups like calculated bets, not desperate gambles. They have 2 to 3 years of living expenses saved, they set a clear deadline for profitability or exit, and they're prepared to walk away if it's not working. Fourth, if you're young with low financial obligations. The risk-reward calculation is different at 25 with no mortgage than at 40 with 3 kids. Time is an asset, and when you have more of it, you can afford to take bigger swings. But here's the key. Even in these scenarios, have a plan B. The smart founders I know always maintain their network, keep their skills sharp, and know they can go back to a high-paying job if needed. They're playing with house money, not betting the farm.
Let's talk about what the startup media doesn't want you to know. There are far more reliable paths to building wealth than the startup lottery. These aren't as sexy, but they work. First, the corporate climb with aggressive saving and investing. I know executives who never started a company, but retired at 50 with $5 to $10 million through disciplined saving, 401k maxing, and smart investing. Boring? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Second, SMB acquisitions. Instead of starting from zero, buy an existing profitable business. Laundromats, car washes, HVAC companies. These unsexy businesses generate real cash flow. With SBA loans, you can buy a $1 million business for $100,000 down that nets $200,000 per year. That's a 200% cash-on-cash return. Third, high-income skills plus freelancing or consulting. Lawyers, doctors, engineers, and developers can make $300 to $500 per hour consulting. Work 20 hours per week? That's $500,000 per year, with complete control over your time. No investors, no employees, no drama. Fourth, real estate done right. Not the guru nonsense, but buying cash-flowing rental properties in growing markets. A friend has built a portfolio of 20 units over 10 years that nets him $15,000 per month in mostly passive income. Fifth, the hybrid approach. Keep your day job while building something on the side. Test your idea with real customers before jumping ship. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know started their businesses while drawing a full salary elsewhere.
They only quit when the side business revenue exceeded their salary. The unifying theme? These paths offer better risk-adjusted returns than startups. They might not make you a billionaire, but they're far more likely to make you a millionaire. So where does this leave you? Here's your framework for deciding if a startup is right for your wealth-building journey. First, be brutally honest about your motivations. If it's just money, there are easier ways. If it's ego or status, you're setting yourself up for pain. The only good reason is that you genuinely can't imagine doing anything else. You have a problem you must solve. Second, do the math, all of it. Calculate your opportunity cost, your investment, your burn rate, and your realistic exit scenarios. If the numbers don't work on paper, they won't work in reality. Third, set clear boundaries. How much money are you willing to lose? How long are you willing to try? What won't you sacrifice? Write these down and stick to them. Fourth, have a real plan B. Update your resume every 6 months. Keep your network warm. Maintain enough savings to cover 6 months of expenses. Hope for the best, but prepare for the likely. Fifth, if you do start something, prioritize revenue over everything. Customer-funded growth is the path to maintaining control and building real wealth. Every dollar from a customer is worth 10 from an investor. Remember, building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal isn't to get rich quickly, it's to get rich surely. Startups can be part of that journey, but they should never be your only plan. Thank you for joining me on WealthWing today. If this episode opened your eyes to the reality of startups, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the best investment you can make is in understanding the true risks and rewards of any financial decision. Until next time, keep building wealth the smart way. This is WealthWing, signing off.